The first thing Thomas Carter noticed was the blood on the snow, dark and shocking against the quiet white of the Oregon woods, as if the forest itself had been wounded and was trying to whisper a warning. He almost turned away, because single fathers learn quickly that fear is a luxury they cannot afford, and danger is something they must always calculate. But then he saw her. A woman collapsed near the tree line, barely conscious, her breath shallow, her body trembling as if the cold was already trying to claim her. In that moment, Thomas did not know he was stepping into a story that would change his life forever. He only knew that if he walked away, he would never forgive himself. Before we go deeper into this story, take a second to like this video, share it with someone who believes in kindness, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel if you believe in second chances and unexpected miracles. Stories like this matter, because sometimes one good decision can change everything. Thomas was not a hero by profession. He was a widower, a father to an 8-year-old boy named Caleb, and a man who worked 2 jobs in a small town outside Eugene, Oregon. His mornings started before sunrise, packing lunches and tying shoelaces, and his nights ended with exhaustion so deep it felt like gravity pressing him into the mattress. The woods were his escape. On rare mornings when his neighbor agreed to watch Caleb, Thomas would walk the trails, not to hunt or explore, but simply to breathe. That morning the air was sharp, and the silence felt heavier than usual, as if the forest knew something he did not. The woman looked out of place, not just because of her injuries, but because of the way she carried herself even while unconscious. Her clothes were torn and dirty, yet clearly expensive. Her hands, though bruised, were manicured. Thomas knelt beside her, heart racing, every instinct screaming about the risk. He thought of Caleb's face, the promise he had made at his wife's grave to always come home. But another promise, older and deeper, rose in his chest: leave no one behind. He wrapped his jacket around her, lifted her with more strength than he knew he had, and began the long, painful walk back toward the road. The hospital was small, underfunded, and familiar to Thomas in a way he hated. He waited there for hours, hands still shaking, replaying the moment over and over. When the doctor finally came out, the news was both relief and fear tangled together. She would live, but it had been close. Hypothermia, internal bleeding, and exhaustion had nearly taken her. Thomas gave his name, left his number, and tried to leave quietly, as if this was just another task to check off before returning to his real life. But something held him back. Maybe it was the image of her alone in the woods, or maybe it was the emptiness he recognized too well. Days passed. Life resumed its relentless pace. School drop-offs, late shifts, unpaid bills stacked neatly on the kitchen counter. Thomas told himself the woman would wake up, be surrounded by family, and forget the man who carried her out of the forest. That should have been enough. But then the hospital called. She had asked for him. Not his name, just the man who found her. Her name was Margaret Holloway. She looked smaller in the hospital bed, stripped of whatever armor she usually wore in the world. There was a quiet strength in her eyes, though, the kind that comes from surviving storms others never see. She struggled to remember how she ended up in the woods, only fragments returning, a car off the road, a long walk, fear closing in. Thomas listened, feeling like an outsider in a story that was not his. He brought her books, coffee, small comforts, telling himself it was temporary. What Thomas did not know was that Margaret Holloway was the CEO of a major technology firm headquartered in Seattle. She was a woman who lived in boardrooms and private flights, whose decisions affected thousands of employees and millions of dollars. The accident that left her in the woods had been the result of exhaustion and pressure she had ignored for too long. In the hospital, stripped of her title and power, she was simply human, and for the first time in years someone sat with her without wanting anything in return. Thomas never asked questions. He never searched her name. He spoke about Caleb, about grief, about how some days felt like climbing a mountain with no summit in sight. Margaret listened, truly listened, and in those quiet hours, something shifted for both of them. She saw a man who carried the weight of the world without recognition. He saw a woman who hid loneliness behind achievement. When Margaret was discharged, she had nowhere to go nearby. Her assistant was still hours away, flights delayed, plans tangled. Against his better judgment, Thomas offered her the couch in his small house. It was not charity. It felt like balance, like the universe correcting itself. Caleb was shy at first, watching her with curious eyes, but children sense truth quickly. She treated him not like a child, but like a person, and that earned his trust. Those days were not easy. Thomas worried constantly about boundaries, about what would happen when her real life returned to claim her. Margaret struggled with nightmares, with the realization that all her success had not saved her when she needed help most. They cooked simple meals, shared quiet evenings, and learned each other's rhythms. There was no romance, no dramatic declarations, just a slow, steady rebuilding of something both had lost. The truth came out accidentally, the way truths often do. A news alert on Thomas's old phone. A photo of Margaret smiling in a tailored suit. A headline that made his stomach drop. CEO survives near-fatal accident. He felt foolish, exposed, as if kindness had been a mistake. Margaret saw the change in him immediately. She did not defend herself. She did not explain. She simply waited, understanding that trust, once shaken, takes time to settle. Thomas pulled back, unsure where he fit in her world now. He returned to his routine, to the quiet struggle that defined his life. He expected her to leave, to disappear into private jets and glass towers. But she did not. Instead, she stayed, learning what it meant to live without layers of protection. She saw the cracks in the system she had once benefited from. She saw how easily good people were overlooked. When she finally returned to Seattle, it felt like a chapter closing. Thomas stood in his doorway, Caleb holding his hand, watching her car disappear down the road. Weeks passed. Then months. Life continued, relentless and demanding. And then one afternoon, Thomas received a letter. Not an email, a letter. Inside was not money, not charity, but an opportunity. A job offer at a new community-focused branch of her company, right there in Oregon, with flexible hours and real support. She had not saved him, she had respected him. Near the end of this story, if it is touching your heart even a little, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach people who need them most. Thomas accepted the job, not because of her, but because it allowed him to be the father he wanted to be. Margaret visited often, not as a CEO, but as a friend who had learned the cost of isolation. They never rushed what grew between them. Some connections are not meant to burn fast. They are meant to last. Before this story ends, I have one special request. Please comment below where you are watching from and what this story made you feel. Your words matter more than you think. Years later, Thomas would walk those same woods with Caleb, now taller, stronger, full of questions about the world. He would tell him that the most important moments in life are often unplanned, disguised as interruptions or burdens. He would say, that kindness is not about recognition, but about choosing to see someone when the world looks away. And Margaret, who once ruled boardrooms, would say that the day she was found in the woods was not the day she almost died, but the day she finally learned how to live.